Let's take a quick look at last week on Impact Wrestling as we continue to lead up to this weekend's Hard to Kill pay-per-view event that is building up quite nicely for Impact Wrestling. My views on Impact Wrestling in its entirety over the years has been very up and down. There's eras of Impact/TNA wrestling that I love very much so. And then there's other eras that I think suck a lot. I would say the last time I really enjoyed Impact Wrestling was in the mid to late 2010s. All of the Final Deletion stuff. That's when I think Impact had a lot of kind of over-the-top creativity, but a lot of creativity nonetheless. I love the creativity that Impact was doing back then. They've still tried to keep up that momentum somewhat, but I feel like most things during COVID, the quality of Impact Wrestling fell a lot. And I feel like even in 2021 and last year, the quality of Impact Wrestling has been subpar to me. It's hard for me to care, I guess, about a lot of the wrestlers on the show. But I do feel like towards the end of this past year, Impact's been building up nicely for me again. I find myself caring more about some of these wrestlers, some of these storylines. So I think as a whole, Impact Wrestling, kind of like pro wrestling as a whole, is kind of finding its footing again. And so I've enjoyed the build to Hard to Kill. And I think I first want to talk about Bully Ray, because he is a lot to some people. Some people don't like him because he's older and not a good in-ring worker according to them. He can't do all these flipping and flying moves or whatever. But the truth is that Bully Ray has these very classic heel tendencies where he tries to get on people's nerves. Like, that's the point of Bully Ray. Bully Ray wants you to dislike him. It's what the classic villains of the past wanted you to do. He wants you to boo him. He wants to sell a fight against the faces that you're going to root for. And Bully Ray does that very well. The character is obviously a bully. That's kind of the point of the name. But also he plays these mind games with people to try and like goad them into stuff. And he does a good job of that. He's been having this feud with Tommy Dreamer, kind of, that I've talked about on this channel, where they've kind of been kayfabing it on their radio show as well, which I enjoy very much. But the main thing with his feud with Josh Alexander, Josh Alexander basically being this white meat babyface that you want to root for, not only because he's a good dude, but because he's a good wrestler. And in modern times, that seems to be the end-all, be-all to the niche audience. They want themselves a good in-ring technician. And I don't know if I always agree with who the internet wrestling community thinks is a good old in-ring wrestler. But Josh Alexander is a good in-ring competitor. And so what Bully Ray does so well is he does the classic heel work where you want to see Bully Ray get his ass kicked. It's the whole point of his character, to get under people's skin. So you want to buy the pay-per-view in hopes of seeing Bully Ray lose. This has been lost in wrestling, honestly. This was like the bare minimum that wrestling used to do so well is sell a fight where you want to see the bad guy get his ass kicked. And that's still what Bully Ray does. And not a whole lot of other people in wrestling these days do that as consistency as Bully Ray. So I think Bully Ray is doing his job in Impact Wrestling, where he's setting up this feud with Josh Alexander, and whether the audience wants to see Bully Ray lose to Josh Alexander because they hate Bully Ray, or they want to root for the good guy in Josh Alexander, or they just like Josh Alexander because he's the good in-ring technician and Bully Ray isn't, according to some. Either way, Bully Ray is selling this fight and selling this pay-per-view, and I love it. On last week, Bully Ray got into it with Scott D'Amore because Scott D'Amore's sick of Bully Ray going around doing all these things. The problem kind of with this segment is that I get it. Bully Ray got under Scott's skin and kind of goaded him into hitting Bully Ray first, and then Bully Ray beat him up and put him through a table. But then the announcers do their usual shtick of Bully Ray being this terrible person, when in reality, Scott D'Amore hit Bully Ray first. So that kind of fell a little more flat to me, because Bully Ray wasn't really he was still the cause of what happened, but Scott D'Amore hit him first, so Bully Ray, of course, is going to beat the shit out of him. Come on now. Some other feuds leading up to Hard to Kill. Obviously, the other big story is probably the Impact Knockouts World Championship. Jordynne Grace has been the champion for a while now. I've come to really like Jordynne Grace too. You know, a few years ago, you would have told me a Jordynne Grace match is on. I probably would have cared 0%. But she got in shape. She looks great. She's been having a pretty good title run. And now they've been building up Mickie James to be her opponent. Mickie James seemed like her career was over when she lost to Tasha Steelz. But she's coming back to have, it seems like, one last go. It's her career on the line against Jordynne Grace. And they've been setting it up with Mickie James talking about her storied career in Impact, in the WWE, throughout everywhere she's been. And, of course, that's another good selling point for this Hard to Kill pay-per-view. It could be Mickie James' last match against a good champion in Jordynne Grace. I like the setup for this match as well. Those are definitely the two best setup matches for the card, I would say. The rest of the card gets a little iffy. Like, the tag championship is being defended in a 4-way tag team elimination match. It's a bit much for me. I like all the people in the match, though. Of course, the Motor City Machine Guns are the current Impact champions. They're going up against Heath and Rhino and Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, who, of course, have been great in Impact for the last couple of years, too. Also going up against Bullet Club members Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I don't think the setup for this match is as strong because obviously there's 4 teams. It's hard to have as solid as a story build when there's 4 teams. But I still think this has the ability to be a good match. The Impact X Division Championship match has been building up with Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. I'm honestly not that intrigued by that one. I also don't know about this 4-way match to determine the Impact Knockouts Women's World Championship. Diana Purrazzo versus Killer Kelly versus Masha Slamovich versus Taylor Wilde. Here's the problem with the Knockouts division for me. It's missing a lot of depth. And it's kind of a struggle in all of wrestling lately. I feel like a lot of the women's divisions around are lacking some depth. Just look at the SmackDown women's roster. It's not deep at all, and I don't feel like Impact's is either, especially when they just had Taylor Wilde defeat Masha Slamovich in a match this past week on Impact. I just don't know what they're doing with Masha Slamovich. They built her up as this big monster for a while, and then as soon as she lost the Impact title match to Jordynne Grace, she's been losing a lot since then. Which kind of takes me out of this match in general, because I don't feel like anybody's built up well in this match except for Diana Purrazzo. But another match I do kind of like the build to is Joe Hendry versus Moose. It's kind of been played for comedy, but there's like this difference where Joe Hendry, of course, is playing it for comedy. He wrote this song for Moose on this past Impact Wrestling, where he shows videos of Moose dancing, and it's basically a play on his own theme song that he wrote for himself, whereas Moose is trying to take this match very seriously as they fight for the Impact Digital Media Championship. I just find Joe Hendry very entertaining, so he sells me on this match for his entertainment value alone. But I do like the kind of yin and yang where Joe Hendry isn't taking this serious at all, where Moose is taking it seriously. I do like the build there. Those are kind of the main matches. We did have like Giselle Shaw trying to team up with Savannah Evans and Tasha Stills to go against the Death Dolls. I wish they could just build their women up a little better. What kind of happens in Impact Wrestling is they'll build a woman up for a long time, but like as soon as they lose, they fall hard and they start losing a lot. That happened with Tasha Still. She was champion for a long time and she was a chicken shit heel, but still, then she's kind of been on a losing streak ever since. And like I just pointed out with Masha Slamovich, it's the same thing. She was built up until she lost the Impact Knockout Championship match, and then she's been losing ever since. They just need to do better with the knockouts. Another story going on, and I don't know if it will have anything to do with Hard to Kill, but they've been building up this odd story where Sami Callihan has sort of turned face, but he's begging to join the heel stable, The Design. And the Design with Cody Deaner is doing a really good job. They sold me a little better this past week on the story where Cody Deaner is telling Sami Callihan that to join The Design, he basically needs to be stripped of his entire identity. He's going to have to shave his head, and it seems like Cody Deaner is going to want to torture him. That's kind of what was implied. It's a weird story, like all Sami Callihan stories are, I guess. I just don't like the fact that he kind of turns face but then begs to join the heel stable. It's weird. Of course, it's speculated that it's going to be a setup, and we'll see what comes of that. I don't read any spoilers for Impact, so I don't like spoilers in general. But we'll see if this has anything to do with Hard to Kill. I do find like Impact it's building up in a better place, like I said at the beginning here. I like the build to Hard to Kill, that I'm actually a little looking forward to it. And I haven't looked forward to an Impact pay-per-view in years. So they must be doing something right.